Welcome to the Circuit of Success Podcast.
The Circuit of Success Podcast.
With your host,
Brett
Gilliland.
Brett Gilliland, Visionary Wealth Advisory.
The Circuit of Success Podcast. Let's start the show.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to the event this evening. My name is Tim Hammett. I'm the president and one of the co-founders of Visionary Wealth Advisors. My business partner, Brett Gilliland. Thank you for coming tonight, and it's going to be a very special evening. I'm here to make the introduction, but I'm not going to talk about Chris's sports accolades, his accolades, I should say. Set that up.
This screen.
Yep. So what I want to share a couple stories with you, because obviously Chris and I are different heights. And so he's 6'6". I can't lie and say I'm 5'6". That would be a lie. See? Obviously, as you can tell. So here's my story. I wish I was his height. Every Halloween, people who know me, Halloween and 4th of July are my two favorite holidays of the whole year. I love blowing things up, and I love dressing up for Halloween. So a buddy of mine about 4 years ago said, if you invest in a costume and you can reuse it or update it every year, I invested in a Frankenstein costume. And so I bought professional stilts. I have my pants, I've got my shirt, I've got this mask for Frankenstein. So one day a year, the stilts are 24 inches tall, and I'm 5'5.5". So for one day a year, I'm over 7 feet tall. And it feels fantastic. So only if I could be Chris Pronger for just a week, just for the height. But we're very excited to have Chris speak tonight. The title of his book, Earned, and I'll just tell a very, very quick story. I remember Chris speaking one time, and he had suffered some very significant concussions during his career. And he told a story that he had a very severe concussion. It was game night. He's getting ready to get on the ice. He can hardly see because it damages, your eyesight. It's difficult when you have a concussion. Get out on the ice, the lights are bright. Everything is almost snow white. He really can't see, almost like looking through a small 1-inch hole for his eyesight, but he still played. And he played the entire game, and that's the kind of person that he is. So I would just say if there's anybody that would be able to have the right to earn to be a speaker for us, I would say it's Chris Pronger. So please welcome Chris and Brett.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
What's up, Chris?
Hey, Brett.
Can everybody hear us okay?
Louder.
That's right. Well, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for writing an amazing
Yes.
book named Earned, which you all should have your copy. If you did not, Lori can help you over here and get your book. So thanks for being with us. Excited. Let me just tell you a couple things that Chris has done to earn
My seat.
your seat at this meeting tonight. He was the second overall draft pick in the 1993 draft. He's been the captain of 3 teams. He has made a Stanley Cup appearance 3 times. He's a Stanley Cup champ for the Anaheim Ducks in 2007. That's a big one.
Yeah. Woo. That's on the cover.
That's on the cover.
It's on the cover.
The James Norris Memorial Trophy in 2000, the Hart Memorial Trophy in 2000, Hockey Hall of Fame 2015, played in 4 Winter Olympics, 2 gold medals, 2002, 2010, named one of the greatest 100 players in hockey history, Triple Gold Club. What's a Triple Gold Club?
That would be a world championship, an Olympic gold medal, and a Stanley Cup.
So we have a combined one of those people in this room that have done that.
Yes. One of one. No.
One of
there's,
one.
Currently 30 players have done that.
30 players in the history of hockey. And for those of you that have been in the Enterprise Center, He's got his number hanging in the rafters, number 44. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Pronger. So Chris, I start us off a little bit about like who you are, the man you've become, obviously the stuff you've done, but even back into childhood, where you're from and what's helped with all this.
Yeah, sure. I'm from a small town in northwestern Ontario called Dryden. Has anybody here been to International Falls, Minnesota? A couple people. The furthest, the northern point of Minnesota, it is the coldest place in the continental U.S., not in Alaska. So my hometown is 2 hours north of that. So you can only imagine what our road hockey games were like and and our pond hockey matches and whatnot. But grew up, small towns, me, my brother, and my mom and dad, and just loved the game, loved playing, loved competing. Every single day after school, my brother and I would either shoot pucks in our driveway, play road hockey with our buddies, go up to the outdoor rink and skate up there, or maybe have something organized and go down to the local arena. But it was always from September to April. That was kind of our hockey window. And we'd play hockey, and then after that, I'd play baseball. After that, I'd golf and go to the beach and have fun and be a kid. And then I would start it all over again. And so for you youngsters here, multi-sport athlete is the way to go. That's how you learn everything. That's how you learn proprioception and different muscle groups and all the rest of that. So from a youth sports perspective, I'm a huge proponent of playing multiple sports for any number of reasons, most of all, just to get out of the house and do something different.
While we're talking about that, talk about, because you didn't do it the conventional way, right? Leave home, go play junior hockey. That's what everybody told you should do. What did you do differently?
Yeah, so growing up, my brother, 2 years older, so he went and played AAA hockey at a town called Kenora, an hour and a half from my hometown. So for him just to go to practice every night, he had to drive an hour and a half, practice for an hour and a half, and then drive home in an hour and a half. So 3 hours there and back, plus practice time, plus whatever else they needed to do. And I was on that track, and I talk about in the book a lot about your own unique journey and your own path and following your own destiny and what you want to do. And I saw the toll it took on him and the pressure and the toll on our family, just driving around doing all this stuff. And I didn't want to do that. And everybody was telling me I was making a big mistake. Instead, I played high school hockey for 2 years in Dryden, which was kind of unheard of. High school hockey in Canada is not like it's in Minnesota or any of those places where it's highly regarded. But I knew, I was 14 years old, and I knew that we had a lot of good players coming back from junior and different places. So we were going to have a good team. And being 14 years old, I was playing against 18, 19, 20-year-olds that some of them had beards and whatnot. So playing against men at times, I knew I was going to at least be challenged and at least have an understanding as to how to use leverage and such, because I was tall, but I wasn't robust, if you will. So going and playing high school hockey was actually a gift in that regard. It took a lot of pressure off me due to not having to do all the travel and scouts and all the rest of that, but I knew they were going to be there at some point if our team was as good as I thought it was going to be. And ultimately got scouted. From high school, I went and played junior B in Stratford for a year, and at the same time I was there, my brother was leaving his junior opportunity to go play college hockey. So I was on that similar track once again, and at the last minute decided to go play major junior because I wanted to challenge myself again and wanted to continue to moving up the ranks, moving up a level. And I didn't want to have to go back to junior B where I felt like I'd already plateaued and peaked. And so you'll see a common theme in the book that I'm constantly betting on myself. I'm constantly challenging myself and looking at every opportunity with my own unique journey as the lens. And from junior, obviously, I get drafted and turn pro.
That's awesome. I think it's important because you think about all the parents that are in here. We think we got to have all this stuff for our kids, right? Where we got to travel to, you got to do it this way. And that's what I always love about your story is you did it different. And you still made it to the Hall of Fame, right? It's not like you just made it to the NHL.
Funny how that works. It's funny how that works. Yeah, I think everybody has their own path. Some kids, are the best player all the way through. Other kids, grind and work their way through and through hard work and effort and good coaching and people investing in them and mentors. They can also find their way too. It's not a one size fits all. And I try to tell, kids that are either up for the draft or they don't get drafted. Their lot in life is not over. There's plenty of players that have had a lot of success. If we're talking about hockey in the NHL, just by continuing to work hard, not giving up on their dream, but having a path and then working towards it and working hard for it, and being dedicated and willing to sacrifice, your long weekends out with the boys and all the rest of that, because you want to follow your dream. And so, every step of the way, I think you just have to understand, what it's going to take and always be betting on yourself and always be investing in yourself.
At what point in your career did you know you weren't just going to be good, but you were going to be great?
I don't know about the great part, but that might have came a little bit later, but I knew I was good. The decision that I made when I left Stratford, which was junior B, to go to major junior, I went to an under-18 camp for Team Canada, and I made the team. And all of the players that were on that team, outside of myself and Paul Correa, played major junior, and they were all up for the draft and all considered to be high picks. And both Paul and I were late birthdays, so we weren't up for the draft that year. We were the following year. And we played on, we go over to Japan to play in this tournament and play against, some guys that you may know, Sergei Gonchar and some of these guys from different countries. And Paul and I are the only two from our team that made the All-Star team. We're the only two guys that were junior B players. And so at that moment, I'm thinking, okay, well, this guy's rated 3rd overall in the draft, and this guy's rated 6th, and this guy's 10th. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, they're not that good. I mean, I fared very well against them, so I'm thinking, maybe I am in that caliber if they're highly regarded for the draft and people think that they can play at that level, then if I'm matching up and maybe exceeding where they're at, maybe I do have a future and maybe I can take this another step further. And that gave me the confidence to leave junior B and leave a potential, college opportunity to go play major junior.
What were the things that you did that you think others maybe weren't willing to do, but you did them when the lights weren't on, right? Because that's what I think you hear about greatness happening is when the lights weren't on, these are the things you did day in and day out.
I was very much a rink rat. I just loved to practice. I wasn't much of a workout guy when I was a kid or, my early days. You may remember my first year here in St. Louis when Mike Keenan called me out for being out of shape. It was the next year where I figured it out. Took me 3 years of getting booed on home ice to figure out, I got to work out in the summer. But, I love being at the rink. I love practicing. I love competing. I love just, everything about that part of the game. I didn't figure out the workout part and the mental part until a little bit later, but we all move in our own pace sometimes.
Well, that's okay. Was there anything you think about everybody in business and life? There's things we realized that we thought when we were younger was right, but we realized it was wrong. Was there anything that you realized later in your career was wrong, but you really believed it early on?
I may need to write a new book then, if that's the case. There's a plenty of failures and mistakes in the book, but I'm a firm believer. I had great mentors, great coaches throughout the course of my career. I had a great assistant coach who I talk about in the book when I played high school, and he kind of helped shape and mold me as a young raw player in high school. And then you go away to junior B. I had an assistant coach that was keenly interested in helping develop me. And then in junior, Dick Todd and Jeff Toohey were my coaches in Peterborough. They were heavily invested in me, and just every step of the way, you have these people that are willing to, invest in you and give up their time and efforts to help advance your career and help you kind of achieve the goals and dreams that you have. And then when I turned pro, I had a guy by the name of Brad McCrimmon, who was my mentor and D partner in Hartford. And I roomed with him. He was my D partner. Played together. roomed together, sat next to him, and then, had dinner with him every single night on the road. And so somebody like that's willing, he was 36 and I was 18, so could have been my dad, really. But, he was a great mentor in the fact that I was, I'm not going to say cocky, but, young and naive and probably thought I knew more than I did. And, he was the type of teacher to just constantly be giving me information, constantly just be feeding into me and hoping that through osmosis, some of it might soak in. And a little bit did. But, the cool part about that story is that he saw me play and played with me in game number 1. And then when I played my 1000th game, he was the assistant coach in Detroit for that game when I was with Anaheim. And I got a chance to talk to him after. And now I'm 34, and he's, watching me now become a mentor and kind of paying it forward, which is a really cool moment. And I had a long talk with him just about a lot of that stuff, and maybe some of the funny stories that I can't tell here that that we had together. But he was a big part of my early days and really understanding about the game and how to be a true pro and what that looks like, and just the mere fact that he didn't stop teaching because my favorite line was "Whatever, beast." Keep telling me something, I'm like, "Whatever, beast." We figure things out.
I love it. Early in my career, I always thought about everything had to be perfect, right? You set these goals, you got to hit them. If you don't hit them, that's not good. If you do hit them, that's great. But then what's next? So I've been saying to myself more in my 40s of progress over perfection.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, when you hear progress over perfection, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I think we strive for perfection. We want to be perfect. That's part of the joy of practice and all the rest of it. But really what we want to see is progress. We want to see we want the process, we want to engage in the process, and then we want to see progress. And so, every single day, just showing up to put in the work, and then just seeing the gradual progression and your marks of, how quickly you can do things, whether we're talking about hockey or business or what have you, showing up and just knowing that the non-negotiables are, we show up to work every day and we put in the work and we grind and prepare and make sure that our daily actions are very intentional, and we're trying to get to that next level each and every day that, whether you're practicing, performing, working in the office,
Yep.
grinding.
My grinding and your grinding were a little different, I think. But speaking of that, so your book, obviously earned, we've all got it. Can't wait to read it. When you were in the process of earning all of the accolades, everything I mentioned, the gold medals, the Stanley Cups, what was the typical day like for you to be great? And you can talk about off-season during the season.
I'll talk about kind of how I got to the process. So as I started to figure things out and realize that I needed to invest in training and needed to take my game to that next level, I spent a whole summer back home training, grinding. Came back. I was nominated for the Norris Trophy that year in 1998. That's the same year I got hit in the heart. And that summer, as I was just nominated for the Norris Trophy, I completely redid my training protocols. I took it down to the studs and just completely overhauled it. I met my new trainer, Charles Poliquin, through Al McInnes, who was introduced to him through Gary Roberts, who's now kind of the training whisperer in Toronto with all the guys that work out up there. But I redid my energy system protocols, my eating. I was eating Eggo waffles and all kinds of stuff you can only imagine. And he's like, we're gonna get rid of everything. You're gonna eat protein. You're gonna, we have to remake your body. We have to fuel it properly if I'm gonna have you train the way I want you to train. All the rest of that. So I spent 3.5 months doing it his way. And when I came back to camp that next fall, I was like, man, this shit works. I was like, amazing. That was as strong as I've ever been. And I was like legit picking guys up and moving them, and they were looking at me like, huh?
Talk about how you met him, though, because if I remember the story correctly, weren't you somewhere and he noticed your gait and how you were walking?
So the first interaction with him, I go over to meet him at Al's house, And I walk in, and he's over here to the left in his office, and he goes, come walk towards me. So I took 4 steps. He goes, all right, go the other way. I go the other way 4 steps, and he looks at me and goes, you're sore right knee? I'm like, yeah. He goes, you got a little problem with your left shoulder? I'm like, yeah. All by 4 steps. Just seeing my gait, seeing my kinetic chain and how it was moving, and that's how keenly aware his eye was to the body. And some of the exercises he had me doing, I'm sure people in the gym were looking at me like, seriously? You're a professional athlete? I mean, I'm doing stupid little scapula things. And he's like, we need to rebuild and rehab your body so that the other things that I want you to do, those muscles are working properly.
So talk about that moment on the ice you mentioned earlier. Those of us recent times remember the Buffalo Bills, right, where the guy got hit.
Yeah.
He basically almost died on the football field, or maybe did. Same thing happened to you on the ice. So talk about that.
Yeah, a lot of people probably don't know. Maybe some of you do. When I got hit in the heart, playoff game against Detroit, second round of the playoffs, game 2, on Fox. I don't know how many people were watching, but it was on Fox. And D to D, we're killing a penalty. I step out to block the shot, and it just hits me perfectly right under my shoulder pad, right in the heart. And it stung, and I just, in my head, I'm like, all right, cover the puck, get a whistle, and then get up and get to the bench. Don't let these fans see you in pain, because God knows what they're going to do. And so in my head, I said all that. I blacked out. And if you've seen the video, I kind of take a couple steps and then stumble. And luckily, I fall to the side. I didn't go face first. That could have been a problem. But fell to the side, kind of landed on my hands. And the next thing you know, I'm looking up at the rafters, at the banners, going, what's going on? And our trainer's like right here. You can see the concern in everybody. I look over and I see Holly and a couple guys crying on the bench. And, it was just a surreal moment where you're not knowing what's going on. And at that time, they didn't have a defibrillator in the building. They had an ambulance, but they didn't have one that had all the bells and whistles in it. It was just a bus to take you to the hospital. And the doctors were up in the nosebleeds because they didn't want to have to pay for those tickets, apparently. So, a lot of things had changed since that. So I wasn't breathing for probably 25 seconds or so. And our trainer, Ray Borelli, who's still there, by the way, was about to start mouth-to-mouth when I started to breathe, and he was like, thank God. And, my lips were starting to turn blue, and then all of a sudden I just kind of came to and looked around at everything, and, they got me out of there. My parents actually happened to be at the game, and so they kind of followed me to the hospital. I came back home, did a couple tests with the heart specialist here in St. Louis, went home, I wore a heart monitor for 24 hours, went home, like I was going to play, ate dinner, went to bed, got up the next morning, went back to the heart specialist. She checked my heart monitor to see if there was any arrhythmia issues or anything, and then, did another battery of tests to see if there was any blips or any issues. And then sat down and, talked to her about, are there any short-term effects, long-term effects? Is this random? Is this like winning the lottery? Can I win the lottery now that I've had this happen? And she was, just very forthright and like, no, this is very freak accident. It never happens. It hadn't happened in professional sports before. It happens to a lot of little leaguers as they get hit with a comeback or a line drive in the heart. But I'm talking to her about this all, and I'm just like, all right, well, I'll go take warm up and see how I feel. And get down to the rink, and everybody's all fired up, obviously, and tell Joel I'm going to take warm up. And, as you might imagine, once you get your gear on, you're like, I'm not taking this shit off. Like, that's not happening. So I go out for warm up, there's a buzz in the building, and then come back, give them the thumbs up, get my gear on, and, get ready to go. And coming out of that tunnel with, packed house, crowd, energy in the building's going off the hook, and then to come out of that and say my name, that I'm starting, and all the rest of it was really special and incredible feeling to get that type of response when you go back 3 years before that I was getting booed on home ice, and to have that type of ovation was really special. And I think for me, people always ask, well, why'd you play so quick when it takes everybody else so much longer? And I'm like, I just needed to rip the Band-Aid off, and from a mental perspective, just not have anything hanging over my head and hanging over me, like any question marks, or being scared that might happen again. I just wanted to get out there, get hit, be hit, get a hit, be hit, and just kind of get back in the action, and it seemed to work out okay.
I think by a show of hands, how many people would almost die and then 24 hours later show up to work? Anybody? Tim, you showing up to work tomorrow? Nope. Not doing it.
Nope.
Not this guy.
Nope. All right.
And that's what I thought's amazing, man. I mean, the fact that just the mental side
Well,
of it.
you also
right?
got to realize I was 23.
I don't care how old you are.
Well, I mean,
The
I was
mental side of
23. I was invincible. I was, single.
Right.
Not a lot to lose at that point.
All right, I guess I'll go play. I can't imagine the stadium. They had to be just
Oh
roaring.
yeah, it was rocking. It's pretty cool.
Here's what I didn't know about Chris Pronger. I know Chris Pronger as this nice guy over the last probably, 5-6 years. I know this guy on the golf course. I know this guy that is just laughs a lot, hangs out. I didn't know until I started watching all these videos how freaking mean you are. Like, I'm tired of watching videos this week of how mean you are and how many people you hit into the ice.
Oh, they shouldn't have said what they said.
It's a good answer.
Yes.
So, obviously, you made it to the top, right? And you made it. You played an intense game. But how did you reset after a bad game with the expectations that you have?
That's the mental part that I struggled with early in my career, is getting past making those mistakes. And you're going to make them. Nobody plays perfect. There's plenty of mistakes to be had out there. But just not having those eat at you and really kind of take you down. And for probably the first 4 or 5 years of my career, I would be thinking about a mistake I made 3 games later just because it was driving me crazy, either A, that I made it, or B, that I can't believe I made it. And so it took a little bit of time for me to just be able to turn the page, have an understanding that we all make mistakes. We're not going to be perfect. While we strive to be perfect, what led to the mistake, and then how can I stop that from happening again, and just kind of digging into the process of maybe what led to it. But I think mainly experience, understanding as to, it's going to happen. Age seems to provide a little bit more maturity, and really just an understanding that when you start digging into video and digging into how you played and digging into all the things, just what exactly caused it, and then how to react to it in a different way the next time.
So I call it the bounce back theory. I've just, from studying people like yourself, the greats in business, the greats in sports, those that make it to the top, they bounce back quickly from defeat, right? So I assume you would agree with that. And so what was that actual process to kind of go on in that question? Was it the next morning you get up and watch film? Like, what did you do for those of us that are in business? How do we move past defeat?
I would use defeat and just add it right over here on this chip on my shoulder, and just use that as burning desire to get better, use that as a burning desire to not feel that loss again. I hated to lose. I loved to compete. I hated to lose, and just was driven to try and win and do everything I could to win. You talk about being mean. Well, trying to make them pay a price so they don't want to win so bad. And start learning what you can do maybe that's different than other people, or how you can, affect change and create unpredictability in what you do. Half the time I didn't know what I was going to do. I might spear you in the nuts. I might cross-check you. I might slash you. I might poke check the puck and take it. I mean, if I didn't know what I was going to do, you didn't know what I was going to do. And, I think as my career advanced, I got better at that. And, it's very reactionary, and things just happen quick. Sometimes you don't even know you're going to do it. And it's just, again, practice.
Right.
And you do those things, and I did those in practice too. I did a podcast this afternoon with Tyson Nash, who I played with for probably 3 or 4 years here. And there was a few times where he was talking to me about, I would slash him. I played 33 minutes the night before, and he's like, yeah, when I would go wide on you, you're like, you go wide on me one more time, I'm going to break your wrist. And I meant it in practice. Just go over there and take your shot from the outside and we'll be on our merry way. If you want to try to challenge, then I'm not going to look bad, you are going to. And that competitive drive, I think, is what I think allowed me to get to where I wanted to get to.
How many penalty minutes do we have in your career?
Oh, that's a good question. Is it 1,500 and some?
It's something like, I don't know the number.
1567 or something like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about that. We should have added
Fair
that
amount.
to the list. How do you handle criticism? Again, I'm trying to apply as much stuff from sports to business, and you talked about your first 3 years in St. Louis getting booed. We don't get booed when we walk in the office.
Unless you're Peyton Manning in an accounting commercial.
Correct.
Not very well in the beginning either. You know, as a young player, it's, you know, especially when you're being booed, you're kind of start blocking everything out, regardless of whether they're right or wrong. And so, for me, it really started to become about understanding, you know, why. You constantly ask the question, why am I being criticized? And I think once my mindset, once I stopped with the victimhood mentality, once I kind of turned that page and like, okay, I need a stronger mindset, I need to be tougher, I need to be grittier, both on the ice and off, that I think is where I kind of turned the page on that and started to take in the information in a different way, you know, listen to it. Sometimes I might think that person has no idea what I'm dealing with. And other times I'm like, they may have a valid point. And I think that's the nice part is we have the ability to pick and choose what we want to listen to. But I think from a coaching perspective, if we're going to talk about criticism, you know, you're more inclined to listen to your peers. You're more inclined to listen to those that are, you know, in the battle with you, so to speak, than maybe somebody else. And so I think that when you get a good locker room, when you get a good culture, everybody's coaching and teaching one another, everybody's holding one another accountable. And I think when you have that, you're more willing to listen to the criticism because you're also getting positive energy too. Right. And that positive, you know, understanding as to, you know, what you've done well. And I would say one of the coaches I had in Anaheim was always positive, negative, positive. You know, start with a positive, give them the little note they need to fix, and then end with a positive so they think, oh, he thinks I'm playing well.
I did not hear that part.
I didn't hear that part. What? Negative? What?
What makes, you know, you've been in the locker room with some of the most elite players in your sport. What makes a good teammate versus a great leader?
I think a great leader has very high expectations for themselves, first and foremost. And then secondly, in that same vein, they have a high expectation for the team, and they're able to bring everyone along with them in a manner that makes sense to everybody, because everybody's going to have their own path, as we just talked about, and have their own direction. But how do you get them all to go in that same direction? How do you get buy-in from them and belief that we are on the right track, we're going in the right direction? And it's through your daily actions. It's through how you show up every single day. It's, you know, when nobody's there, are you in the gym working out? When nobody's there, are you working on your craft? When nobody's there, and, you know, there's plenty of times where, you know, guys would see me in the gym and they'd be like, play 30 minutes a day, a night. And, you know, why are you in here? I'm like, so I can play 30 minutes a night because I like to play and I need to keep my body in the style it's accustomed to. And, you know, when you look at a leader versus a follower or a teammate, it's not so much that they're not leaders. They're a part of the group. They're a part of the process. They have to take ownership too. But it's what you do to inspire them to be a part of the group and then get that buy-in.
Love it. When you look at this book, obviously you're holding the Stanley Cup here. That's pretty cool. Earned, the true cost of greatness from one of hockey's fiercest competitors. What made you pick the word earned, and what does it mean to you today?
I think as you go through the book, every opportunity, every moment, every challenge I earned. And while some like to think that it was easy for me, it was far from it. And, you know, I think nothing in life worthwhile is easy, and we have to go earn it. And when we set goals and we look at moments that we want to achieve, what is it going to take to get there? You got to go earn it. And so every step that I take is about earning the opportunity, earning everything in front of you, And throughout the course of the book, it's about challenging yourself. It's about really digging in those moments where it can go right or wrong. It can go left or right. You find that fork and you continually bet on yourself. And I think the part about earned is, you're betting on yourself and you're earning the opportunity to then continue to bet on yourself. And, we looked at a bunch of different names for the book, but that name just kept, the cream rises to the crop. And that one just kept coming back. Not only did it make sense, but it just flows off the tongue.
I love it. Who was the teammate, maybe eventual teammate, but a guy you hated playing against, but then eventually became a teammate?
I don't know if I hated him per se. I liked playing against him. But the guy that wrote the foreword for the book, his name is Teemu Selanne, decent player. And I kind of was trying to figure out who should write the foreword, who should, be a part of it. And I kept coming back to him. I'll tell a quick story. We butted heads. I was tasked with shutting him down on a nightly basis. And, it may have taken a pound of flesh or two off of him over the years. And in 2002 in the Olympics, we played Finland in the semifinals. And there was about 2 minutes left. I went back for a puck to chip over to my partner, Al, and Teemu came running in and drilled me from behind. And if you see the picture, my forehead was in between the two pieces of glass. And I was split wide open for about 10 stitches, bleeding all over the place, and no penalty. So I'm now losing my shit on the bench. And thinking, okay, how is this not a penalty? He jumps, drills me from behind, whatever. And so then I'm on the bench. Put steri strips on me so I'm not bleeding all over the place so I can finish the game. And as we start celebrating at the end of the game, he's kind of over here and our team is over here celebrating, and I beeline right over to him. And I'm like, you are dead. I am going to murder you. We play you in 2 weeks. I'm going to kill you. And so, we had that bitter rivalry. Played him again in the playoffs when I was in Edmonton. Then he was in Anaheim. We played in the conference finals and may have gotten away with a few in that one. But and then became teammates. And it's funny how things come full circle when you're battling and both competitive and passionate about playing the game at a high level. And then we become teammates. And I won't ruin the forward, but the moment we both got in the locker room, I stood up, I walked over to him, come give me a hug. And we hugged it out in front of everybody in the locker room, broke the tension. Guys were kind of like, what is going to happen here? And then from there, we never looked back.
I saw an interview with him talking about that, and he, I think it was his GM came and told him, he's like, we got Pronger. He's like, what? We got Pronger? Because I think he did use the word hate. You didn't.
He's Finn, so.
That's great. That's awesome. Talk about trash talking, man. The stuff that us hockey fans, we don't see. You guys are skating 100 mile an hour. What's the trash talk like going on a game?
I don't think there's as much now as there used to be. There used to be a lot. Obviously a little bit different game with all the tough guys and whatnot. They had a lot of spare time on the bench to be chirping guys. But no, there's still some guys that, I think tempers flare. Things get elevated a little bit. Guys need to get the pressure valve going. They're either going to fight or they got to say something to just relieve the pressure and the tension of the moment. And, there's a fair amount. It's not necessarily PG.
Okay. Next question. Let's talk about this. I didn't get approval of any of these questions, just so you know.
Typically, it gets pretty personal.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Most trash talking does.
Yeah.
So he didn't have any of these questions, so I'm going to ask this.
I'll give you one.
All right.
I'll give you one. And it's very subtle. So when I was
these are my kids, so you can be you can say whatever.
When I was in, it's not so much that, but when I was in Philly, we were playing Washington, and they had Nicholas Backstrom was Ovechkin's center, and so I was matched up against him. So I go back for a puck, pass it to my partner, and he kind of like bumps me. He doesn't run me, but he bumps into me, and I looked at him. I'm like, All right. We get to the face-off. For whatever reason, he got kicked out, and he lines up right next to me. And I looked over at him, I go, you touch me one more time, I'm going to break your arm. And right off the face-off, boom, chop down on his arm, hit all meat. Oh, it hurt. And he just looked at me, I'm like, I mean it. Never to be heard from again.
Don't mess with Chris Pronger. Talk about a winter night in Buffalo at Jim Kelly's bar.
Yeah.
Okay,
how
to
much
ask that
time do we
question?
have? Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, as you might imagine, my rookie year is not going well. Being booed on home ice is never fun. I think we've established that point. Our team is not good. We're late into March. We're going to finish well out of the playoffs. I think we may have been in second last at that point. And, our team is all going out. We got into Buffalo 2 days early for our game. They were actually playing somebody that night. And then we were playing 2 days later. So we all went out for dinner, and then we went to Jim Kelly's bar, which was kind of the spot back then. And when I say our whole team was in there, our whole team was in there. And I know I was only 19, but when your teammates are out, you're going to go too. And I may have had something else with me that all these young guys know, an ID of sorts. And so, we're in there. I'm talking to Pat Verbeek, our captain, who's now the GM in Anaheim, and then Kevin McCarthy, our assistant coach, and the D coach. And we're just having a conversation, and we've got 6 guys over at this bar over here. We've got another 6 or 7 guys over at this bar, and it's a big room like this, and 6 or 7 over here at this bar. And I'm standing there talking, and this bouncer just walks up, and when I swear to God, we didn't do a thing. This guy walks up, just grabs his beer, like, out of his hand. And, Pat Verbeek's 33 years old. He's got 3 or 4 kids. I'm like, what is he going to do? And he's 5'9". Where is he?
He's back there.
Oh,
now.
there he is. Oh, he wasn't 5'4".
5'5.5".
So he kind of yanks the beer out of his hand. Well, when you're in a bar, anytime a bouncer has anything happen, boom, they're all in. And we're like, again, remember, our teammates are over here at this bar getting served. The bar is not closed. They're serving them there, they're serving them there, and they're serving them there. So these guys all come over, and now they're pushing us this way. The door, just like in this place, is over there. So they're pushing us away from the door, and on the other side of that wall is the mall. Somehow we're in a mall. I didn't know. And so as they keep pushing us, we're moving back. These bouncers are moving forward. And I'm like, guys, just let us go. There's no reason to be doing this. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, the cops come busting in. So our other 5 guys that are here, they get pushed forward. And now there's 7 of us get taken to the cop shop. These guys over here are still at the bar drinking. And these guys are over here at this bar drinking. And we're like, okay, they mace us and do this whole thing, take us to the cop shop, which I would come to find out later was literally across the street. They did a little joyride around Buffalo and toured us around, laughing at us, whatever. So somehow it was a setup of sorts. But the worst part for me, I don't know, I'm 19, you see movies, right? So I go to sleep in the jail. I'm tired. They get me up. We're all walking out, and I got this jean jacket on, and all of a sudden I, got kind of in a blur. I look over, and there's a camera, and I'm like, oh, boom, like doing the perp walk. And our owner sees that, and he loses it. He's like, how much money am I paying this kid? And, oh, my God, what kind of team do we have? And, all this stuff. And the league wanted to suspend us, all 7 of us. But they couldn't because Buffalo was in a playoff race for first place with Boston and the integrity of the game and all the rest of that. But basically, there's this barroom brawl that never happened but gets talked about in that vein. And the worst part about it all, and I talked about Pat Verbeek, he had liability insurance on his house. when we were standing there and the cops came in, the bouncers jumped in, they started kicking our assistant coach. So I'm getting maced in the ground. Our coach just got the boots laid to him. The bouncer that did it broke his toe, allegedly, and sued me and Pat Verbeek. Wow. I'm not sure how that works, but his insurance company paid 50 grand or whatever it was, because they didn't want to go to court, because it would have cost probably more than that.
For a broken toe.
For a broken toe on an assistant coach who didn't do a thing. So anyways, that's my Buffalo story. It's probably not as sexy as it sounds, but it was not pretty.
Still
and Jim
thinking about the
Kelly,
bouncer.
I've never met Jim Kelly since.
Well, we need to get that.
I was looking for him for a long time. Never found him.
Gonna break his arm.
I would have done more than that.
Talk about 4.5 years from your first game in St. Louis to being the MVP.
Well, you've kind of heard part of the journey and, me investing in myself and finding the trainer and working with Charles and, immediately start seeing improvements. Get hurt that year, I hurt my ankle, and then Al wins the Norris Trophy. And the positive that I got from being hurt was that typically, rolling over from playoffs to the off season, I would have some injuries or something would be wrong, but I had so much time off that I was healthy. And so I rolled over when we lost the playoffs in the first round that year, right into training. So I had 4.5 months of training before training camp and felt amazing. I did it the year before. So now I'm just compounding all that work and felt incredible coming into the season. And, we had a great team. And I played with the checking line, and Craig Conroy was up for the Selke that year. We dominated the other team's top lines, and it was just a great year. And to have it, not culminate with winning a Stanley Cup, but to win those 2 awards, I probably didn't appreciate the year I had as much as I should have, because I was so pissed off that we lost. With the type of team that we had, it was one of the best chances we had to win here, and we lost in the first round in a very ugly fashion. And so I was pretty bitter. And I was in the middle of a contract negotiation, and I was doing, all kinds of things that just, played into the anger. And so when I was at the awards, I was still so pissed off that we lost, and I'm watching New Jersey carry around the cup for the awards and all that stuff, and it's just, that drive that you have to be great, you need those moments, and that was probably one of them that, I would have traded both those trophies for that one. Right. And so the story when I won was I won the Norris, and I went back, I made my speech, and I went into the back room, and Dave Keon Jr. Had worked, longtime employee of the NHL, and Dave Keon's son, who was a Hall of Famer, he used to take all the young draft picks around to Stanley Cup finals and showcase them for the draft and all that. So I got to know him, through that. And I go into the back after, and normally you mill around and you talk to the media and you do all kinds of things. And he looked at me, he's like, "Hey, you better get back to your seat." And I'm like, "Whatever." And he's like, "No, well, you better go back to your seat, because I'll see you in a minute." I'm like, "Oh, all right." I went back to my seat, and I told my wife, I'm like, "I think I might be getting back up here." And lo and behold, Mark Messier did the trophy announcement that year and called my name. And frankly, the only reason I won, it is very hard for a defenseman to win that award. The only reason I won is that Jaromir Jagr that year got hurt, and I think he missed 16 games. So the Pittsburgh writer voted for me 1 and him 2. And I won by 1 vote. So.
But he's pissed.
He was not happy, no.
His own writer.
And the nice part was, I had, back then you could have performance bonuses in your contract. So I had a lot of bonuses in my contract when I redid my deal. And so I had a bonus for plus minus. I had a bonus for first and second team All-Star. I had a bonus for Norris. I had a bonus for the Hart. Bonus for pretty much any President's Trophy. I had a bonus for everything. And so I also got revisions. So I not only got the money that year, but then it got added to every year. So in '98, when I was up for the Norris, I got that money added on to the next 4 years. Then I also was second team All-Star. That got added to the every year, subsequent year. And so the year I won the Hart and the Norris, I had $1 million bonus. Wow. So then that rolled over to every other year. So it was a nice contract.
That's a nice little vote you got.
Yeah. So thank you, Pittsburgh writer.
That's right.
You did me a solid.
Talk about, I think the names we could name drop here that you played with, but talk about Brett Hull and what he was like as a teammate, maybe off the ice. Any good Brett Hull stories?
I think everybody's heard the lore of Brett Hull, but
I think we saw it after the cup they won.
Yeah, he went blue all right. But I mean that's Hully. Like anybody else, and they're probably getting in shit, but it's like, oh, that's Hully. I mean, it just, the talent that he had and the personality and all that, I mean, everybody knows, but such a great teammate. And, he probably doesn't get, I think people know he's a star, but maybe the recognition for what he meant to this city and what he meant in the evolution of the St. Louis Blues. And, he had a lot of pressure on him to perform when he first got here, and the way to handle it the way he did and to perform at that level is, we talk about mindset. It takes a strong mind to be able to do that. And while yes, he liked to have fun, he was also very dedicated. I don't think people maybe see that side of him, and how dedicated he was, and how he worked on his shot, how he worked on little things in practice, and he was. A smart guy, high hockey IQ, and loved the game in that regard. I don't think he loved to practice too much, but he loved playing the game, and he, was obviously a tremendous talent.
That's great. Talk about the Stanley Cup. I think, those of us that played sports as a kid, you watched the Masters last weekend, and they all talk about, man, I dreamed of this, right? You probably dreamed of winning a Stanley Cup. People dream of winning a World Series. What was the moment like when you realized on the ice you guys were going to be Stanley Cup champions?
Yeah, it was, having just lost the year before in a Game 7, and then to get back to it the following year, the initial thought is a sense of relief, finally able to accomplish a lifelong goal and dream, and to get that monkey off your back of, oh, mate, are you going to be the best player to never win? I mean, that's a tough handle to have. And so, and you never know when you're going to get back. You never know. So much goes into it. So much has to happen. A lot of luck. Hot goaltender, as we saw here in 19. Guys peaking at the right time. Timely goal scoring. Players that maybe you don't know much about or you haven't heard much about stepping up and taking on maybe outsized roles for them. And, there's so much that goes into it, and it's such a 2-month grind of playing every other day and just leaving it all out there. And, your willingness to throw caution to the wind and, not worry about your body and just be reckless. There's a price to be paid and a toll, but the end result, if you're able to accomplish it, is worth it.
Talk about the after party. Talk about that.
Ooh. That was a tough one. In Anaheim, when we won, we kept it. Some locker rooms are like on lockdown. It's the players only. Ours was an absolute free for all. I mean, we had probably 500 people in there. It was insane. Everybody and their mother was in there, and I don't really know how, but once I brought the cup in from letting all the team services and people in the building and all that kind of get their pictures, I brought it into the room for everybody to start partying, and it was now mind you, I've got a separated shoulder at the time, so I kind of kept to the peripheral and then the outside, but it was as good as or better than you might expect, just to be able to kind of see the raw emotion and see what it meant to everybody, and all the families are in there and kids, and it was, one-on-one. You only get the first time to do it one time, and that moment, my favorite part after. So we partied in the locker room forever. We had a 5 o'clock game because we were on the West Coast, so it was still light out when we ended. And then we went out, we had a party outside, they had a big tent and stuff. And then I went home to go to bed at like, I don't know, 4 in the morning. I woke up, maybe a little groggy, and went to go get a Five Guys burger to get a little foundation in my stomach. And I got a phone call, and I'm looking at my phone, and I'm like, unknown number. I mean, how bad can it be? I just won the cup, right? I answer it. It's my buddy, Bobby Gassoff, over in Afghanistan as a Navy SEAL calling me. Dude, I watched your game last night. That was amazing. Everybody's so fired up. I'm like, to take the time to do that and to be so happy for somebody, that's the type of friend it is, and how special, every time I tell that, the hair stands up my neck that he took the time to do that, and glad I took that call.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Good dude. Talk about the night you had the cup, or a couple days you had the cup. I've heard some stories.
Is this the party?
This is the party.
This is the party. So I got the cup earlier. When you first win, I didn't know this. I guess it stays around in the area, and they take it to various hospitals and different charitable functions and things. And at night, if you want it, you can just say, hey, is it open tonight? Can I get it to come to my house? So I had a running joke with my brother. I always had a wine cellar, and so I had all this nice wine. And every time he came over, he'd be like, oh, can we open up the Screaming Eagle? Can we open up the Petrus or whatever? And I'm like, no, not till I win a cup. So now we win a cup. And I'm like, all right, I got the cup coming. It's like a week and a half after we had won. I'm like, all right, I got the cup coming. And it was me, my 2 kids, my mom and dad, my brother and his wife and 2 kids, and a couple friends of mine. That was the party, the first one. And so the cup guy brings it in, and I've got all of this wine open on the dining room table, and we're going to take it all down. And he walks in, and I go, hey, you want a nice glass of wine? I got a nice 97 Bryant family here for you. And he looks at me and goes, I better not, it's probably going to be a long night. I better not yet. And he peeks his head around. When's the party start? I go, it's already started. And he peeks his head around the corner. There's 4 little kids running around. My parents and buddy over here cooking, and a couple people milling around over there. And he looks at and he goes, this is the party? I go, yeah. He goes, I'll take a glass of that red wine, please. And so as we demolished all the wine, my brother knew the bassist for the band Sugar Ray, and he had texted him and said, hey, can I bring my buddy over to get a picture with the cup? So they come over, and we're well sauced, and my brother goes, Murphy, you should call Mark. You guys should play his party. It's next month. And he looks at me. I go, yeah, call Mark. So he calls Mark McGrath, and he's like, hey, are we doing anything on July 21st? No, I don't think so. He's like, well, do you want to play Pronger's cup party? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So I set up a stage in my backyard by my pool, not on the pool, away from the pool, and I had a subterranean garage, so I blacked out the garage and set up a DJ. So Sugar Ray came in, played all their hits, like 12 or 13 songs, and then everybody moved down into my subterranean basement and garage, and I had this guy was pounding music into the garage. And I lived in a canyon, and so the music was reverberating all throughout the canyon. I mean, it was. I lived near the 405. It was going all the way across the 5, like 4 miles away. And so at about 2 in the morning, I'm up in the wine cellar grabbing something, and my party planner goes, oh my God, Chris, the cops are here. And I'm like, bring them in. How bad can it be? I got the cup here. So bring them downstairs, take pictures, do all that stuff. And they go, oh my God, do you know how long it took us to find your house? 3 hours. We've been driving around all these canyons, all these roads, trying to find your party. And they go, hey, can you turn the music down a little bit? I go, I got you. Yeah, no problem. Turn it down, they leave. Boom, crank it back up. About 4 in the morning, they came back. They're like, all right, it's time. And the cup guy at that point, everybody's well on their way and probably done. The Cup guy goes, yeah, I think I'm going to take this home now. Yeah. We're going to get this thing tucked away into bed. Yeah, so it was, and all my neighbors and everybody in my neighborhood still, to this day, talk about that party as one of the best parties they've ever been to.
I love it. We're going to open it up here in a minute for you all to ask some questions if you'd like. And so, but talk to us, we recently just had the USA versus Canada hockey.
What happened?
USA. The kid gets his teeth knocked out. I mean, you had stitches in your forehead. You guys are built different. You keep playing. But talk about when you're playing for your country, winning the 2 gold medals you've won. What's that versus, a Stanley Cup, and how are those different?
Yeah, when I was growing up, pros weren't allowed to play in the Olympics. So for me, it wasn't really a dream or a goal. I had an opportunity. If I didn't sign my contract in Hartford, I was going to go play in the Olympics that year in '94. But, it's comparable in, what it means for your career. Obviously, winning a gold medal is special and incredibly humbling to be able to represent your country and play on the highest stage. But I grew up, wanting to win a Stanley Cup. That was my life goal. And so I always hold, it's like 1A, 1B. Yeah. I hold the Stanley Cup here, and a close second are my 2 gold medals. And both, very different, a couple duds in between, to 2006 and 1998, where we got kiboshed. But, all 4 of my Olympic experiences were great. Obviously, the 2 Olympic golds were fantastic and memorable, but all of them were valuable learning lessons. Number 1, how to be gracious in defeat, which sometimes we're not always, and number 2, just having the experience to play against some of these countries and see what it means to them and how hard they fight for their countries. That's the cool part. And, you're supposed to mow them over. You're supposed to be this big superpower in hockey, and they scratch and claw and fight and kick and do whatever they can to stay in the game, and it's cool to see. But to be able to represent your country and to do it in Canada in 2010 in Vancouver was, something that, it's hard to put into words how well Vancouver showed. It was the best Olympics for Canada, for medals and gold medals, and to have our gold medal cap it off and be the most gold medals in Canadian history in the Winter Olympics was really cool.
It was cool. I was in Max's room, me and a couple of the boys watching it, and seeing that kid, man, just get his tooth knocked out was incredible. Huge kid, right?
Yeah, what a great picture. That one
Unbelievable.
That one will be.
Yeah.
That's the new it picture, I think.
Questions from the audience? Anybody got a question that you want to ask Mr. Chris Pronger?
What do you got? Oh, you got nothing?
I have a question.
Right here.
Hey, Chris Pierce. Growing up, truly, seeing the 44 on the back of the jersey was a staple in my youth. But
thank you.
I love watching it, man. The hoisting the cup and the ultimate triumph in Anaheim. There's 10, 20 seconds where you're doing a lap around the ice with the cup. What was going through your head at that time, if you remember?
So real quick, if I can repeat that, just so people can hear it. So what was it like, the 10 or 20 seconds going around with the cup when you got it?
Yeah, when you get it, and I'll tell you the story of why I went where I went. Scott Niedermayer was our captain. He got it from Gary Bettman, and got to give it to his brother, who had never won the cup, Robbie, and then I wanted to take it because I wanted to give it to Timu. And, our whole saga and story, and, Robbie gives it to me. I've got a separated shoulder. That thing weighs 35 pounds. So I'm like making sure this thing is going up. So I'm reefing it up there and going around, but it's just, you can't replicate that feeling of excitement and joy and finishing something. You very rarely get to win it. You're typically never winning the last game, but to be able to accomplish that and win that last game, and to do it on home ice in front of our fans, in front of all my friends and family that were able to make it, was special. And you see, I've got great pictures of my son George in the crowd giving his towel wave, and my mom and dad were hugging each other, and just the emotion of them probably more than me, just seeing me live out my dream and, all the hard work that they had, in my youth hockey career and driving us around and doing all the rest of that, and have my brother there to be a part of it was really cool. And then to be able to then take it and hand it to Tamo to see, just the raw emotion, him crying, taking the cup, and just, you can tell what it means to people, and that the cup does crazy things to people in a good way, in the emotions that it brings out in you, because it's so hard to win, and it takes a village, and everybody knows it that's a part of it, because it takes everybody from top to bottom to play their role and do it to the best of their abilities.
Other questions? All the way in the back here.
Have you ever thought about coaching professionally? Was that the question? Have you ever thought about coaching professionally?
No.
Good answer.
I've actually, funny enough, the last few years I've had a couple guys reach out to me and ask me if I wanted to coach, and I've already got very little hair, and I don't need it to turn gray, so
There's nothing wrong with gray hair.
I'm not much for coaching. It's the day-to-day grind and the so short term. I like the bigger picture. If I was to do anything, I'd probably get back into management if there was the right opportunity or the right role, but it would take something really special to make me stop doing what I'm doing.
Now they catch you on Prime on Monday nights.
Yeah, Amazon Prime Canada on Monday nights.
Get your TV.
Or your
on.
local St. Louis affiliate for the Blues.
Robin, you had a question? Are your boys following in your footsteps?
My oldest boy, Jack,
Height-wise, yes.
is following my size footsteps. He's 6'6", too. And he just graduated from SMU down in Dallas. And now he's working. And they both, Mr. Tim Rumpf back there, I was assistant coach. He was head coach for a couple of years with our boys. Then he played, I think he played 1 or 2 more years, and then he shut her down. And started to matriculate, and he actually loved basketball, being tall, so he played basketball and lacrosse. And then my middle son is 6'7", and he's a junior at SMU. And he too, he actually started it. He was playing hockey, and I was driving around coaching one son and then the other son, and I'm looking at him like, buddy, you don't look like you're having a lot of fun. He's like, no, I don't know. I go, well, I'm doing a lot of work here. You got to let me know. If you're not having fun, don't do this. Don't do it for me. And so he quit first and started playing basketball. And then my older boy saw how much fun he was having. And he was like, oh, well, maybe I'll play basketball too. So they both played basketball and lacrosse in high school. And then my daughter is a junior in high school, and she plays lacrosse and is a wonderful artist, if anybody's looking to commission any work.
Other questions right here, Ryan?
Why St. Louis? So many, whether it's Paul had a success in Dallas, and you and Chase, and everybody, these hockey players come back to St. Louis. I like St. Louis, but other towns sound maybe for some people better. Why do so many of the alum choose St. Louis?
I've got a couple answers. One, my wife is from here.
Done.
Two, I enjoy, I was here the longest of any stop, I was here 10 years, and, made a lot of friends in those 10 years, and obviously, I'm from the middle of nowhere, Canada, and just Midwest is a little more my speed, not a big city guy, so, having where I live in Ladue, my kids' school is 5 minutes away, my golf club is 2 minutes away, 15 minutes to go downtown, God forbid there's any traffic, 20 minutes. And it takes me 15 minutes to get to the airport. I mean, it's just ease of getting around, and obviously good people, very good people. It's a great community, and they take care of the players, and guys, are invested in youth hockey and various youth sports programs, and I think it's a great place to play. I think a lot of times, as Chase always says, it's a sleeper city. People don't realize how good it is. They hear the headlines about all the bullshit, and they don't really know what actually goes on, and what the city's actually like. So, once guys come here and play, they get it. And, like Robert Bortuzzo just moved back. Paul Stastny's from here, but he moved back. Chris Butler is from here. He moved back. They could. Gretzky's got a place. There's just guys. His wife's from here.
Right. Another reason. Great question. When you were a kid, what professional athlete did you idolize?
I was a big Mike Bossy fan. So if anybody knows, 50 goals in 10 and a half straight years, and then had to retire from back injury. But he was part of the dynasty with the New York Islanders. And funny enough, in 2017, when they named the top 100, he was still alive. He passed away from cancer. He was still alive. I got to sit with him and got to tell him he was my favorite player growing up, and he was looking at me all dumbfounded. Really? I'm like, yeah, man, you're my favorite player. Love watching you go down the wing. You had an unreal slap shot, and he got a good kick out of it. Yeah, it was really neat. I get to meet a lot of cool older guys back. Jean Rattel had a real good conversation with him. That's what's cool about those events. When you get the different eras, they're able to kind of dig in and learn a little bit more about the players and kind of who they are and what they're all about. And as they're trying to do those rankings and all that, it's pretty hard to compare eras. Guys wearing tube skates.
Yeah, what's the toughest forward you went up against during your career? The toughest one to defend against?
Yeah, somebody asked me this today. I had a problem with the short guys. Where'd he go? There he is. No, seriously. Like the little guys are hard to get. Hard for me to get down that far. Once I get a hold of them, I got them. But I had a problem with some of the shorter, like Steve Sullivan and Theo Fleury and some of the shorter guys, just getting down to get there. Marty St. Louis.
Just makes sense.
Ned? Was there a player that even you wouldn't mess with on the ice?
Is there a player even you wouldn't mess with on the ice?
Well, I mean, I guess it would depend on what was needed. But I'll tell you a quick Zdeno Chara story. So I'm playing here with the Blues, and we go to Long Island, and I think it was his rookie year. And sometimes on the power play, I would go to the front of the net. Well, I go to the front of the net, and he cross-checks me, and I'm like, all right, okay. I just kind of float around over here. The puck goes over in the left corner. His attention goes over there. I just work my way back around behind him, and I cross-checked him as hard as humanly possible. And he just, okay, I'm going to go up to the point. I'm good. And I think when we, if we're talking about fighting or things like that, I mean, Twister, my first year here in St. Louis, in half a season broke 8 faces. So when you're talking about power and what scared guys, like there were a lot of guys that were really nervous when he was playing. There was a lot of tough guys kissing his ass, which you never see. But he just had that reputation. And I'll give you a quick Twister story. I walk into the gym one day, and I look, and I'm like, he's on his knees. I'm like, what are you doing? He's punching the concrete. Got to calcify my knuckles. I'm like, okay, welcome to the NHL. Here we go. Well played.
Laura?
What are your views on the current state of the Blues right now? Where do you think, as far as we obviously are eliminated from playoffs, but where do you see us going from here?
What is the what? Current Blues?
What's the current state of the Blues? How do you feel about that? Do you want to answer that?
Let's say they're in transition. They've been very inconsistent. I don't necessarily think they have an identity, and that's a problem. And they've got a few players that are underperforming their contracts that have no move clauses, so that's a problem. And they've got to sign a couple guys. Like Dylan Holloway is their best player. He's not unrestricted, but he's a restricted free agent. they're going to have to pay him a lot of money. He's got good stats, and yes, he's been a little unlucky with a couple of the injuries that he's endured, but that line of him, Thomas, and Snuggerud, they've kind of found a connection. But then there's a massive drop-off after that one line. And so they have to find something in there. And they've got some younger guys coming. Young Stenberg, Otto Stenberg, is a good player, but he's not an offensive threat. He's just a really smart player. He's a complementary piece. And then you've got Dalibor Dvorsky, young kid. It looks like he's kind of hit a wall. Not used to playing 82 games and playing at that level. There's an adjustment period. And then I don't know what to say about Jordan Kyrou. he's a bit of an enigma, and I'm not sure what they're going to be able to do in that regard. But I think on the back end, Broberg has been a positive in watching him develop his maturation and how he plays the game at a high level. He's gained a lot of confidence going over to the Olympics and getting that experience. Logan Mailloux did not get off to a good start. Went down. I think he found himself a little bit and started playing with a little more confidence. He's still developing. He's got a ways to go, but they're giving him more responsibility here the last 25 games or so, playing on that top pairing. And then this Theo Lindstein kid has been really good, partnered with Colton Parayko, so a good mentor for him, and steady Eddie, protector, safe player for him. And then it's a bit of a drop off. And then in net, I really like the 1-2 tandem they have. Joel Hofer is their number one. He's their new number one. And if they want to keep pushing him, they'll keep Binnington. It just depends on what their internal payroll is going to be. Do they try to move him or do they keep him? Do they have a different option? Somebody needs to push Joel Hofer. You can't just hand him the keys to the camper and tell him, okay, it's all yours, and not have somebody back there to push him to be better as he continues to develop. But he has taken the number one spot with how he's played, and he's been really good outside of the start to the year. And I think that's probably, again, their biggest question mark is the start to the year. They have to get off to better starts. They have to stop whatever's caused the last couple of years starts. They need to fix that this summer. Otherwise, they're going to fall into another hole, and everybody around them is getting better. That's the other thing. Minnesota's not going to have a drop-off. Colorado's not having a drop-off. Dallas is not having a drop-off. Utah is going to get better. They've got a lot of good young players coming in the pipeline. Like, who are they going to beat? So then that becomes the question, and how do they get better? And, this draft is going to be huge for them. If you're them, you're hoping you win it. You've got two lottery picks with Detroit and their pick. And then they have Colorado's late. It'll be a late pick of somewhere in the first. But you hope you can only move up 10 spots, so the Detroit pick will be, if they were to win, it'd probably be 3 or 4. And then they've got their pick. So they're going to get good players with those. I don't know when they're going to be ready to step in, and they've got a couple other younger guys coming. But they're still a ways away. They got a lot of cleanup on aisle 4 to do.
I saw a couple more questions back here. Right here. When did you decide to retire? When did you decide to retire?
Right about the time when I got a stick in the eye, and I'm just kidding. I got a stick in the eye when I was playing in Philly, and missed. Again, it's very, very similar to my heart issue. Missed 14 days. I had a lot of hemorrhaging in my eye. The heel of the stick hit me directly in the eye, and my eye was bleeding and hemorrhaging. And not only did I have the vestibular concussion, but I had eye issues. And at the time, I was more concerned about losing my eye and not being able to see than I was about concussions or anything else. And so, I had to lay in my bed all day, every day for 10 days straight putting these drops in, trying to get the blood to filter out, to be able to see if I could see well, which ultimately it flushed out and I could see again. Then I walked around my neighborhood and rode my bike that I had in my house. Then I went down to the rink and worked out on my own. Then I skated on my own. Then I practiced with the team, and then I played the next day. And so
Exactly what I would have done.
I came back and I played 5 games. I played in Tampa, Florida, Carolina. Then we came home and played against Phoenix at home, and then we went up to Winnipeg. And after the Winnipeg game, my symptoms were getting worse and worse, and I got hit a couple times, and had whether a concussion or whatever, and just was getting really nauseous, had really bad headaches. I was really foggy, couldn't see very well, and just it got to a point where it was starting to really affect me and my play. And just I went to take a one-timer in Winnipeg, and I fell down. I turned into a guy. I knew he was there, and I still turned into him. It was starting to become an issue where I might hurt myself or somebody might hurt me because I was kind of clueless out on the ice and unaware of what was going on around me, when that was always one of my biggest attributes, was knowing where every single person was on the ice. And so after that, I went, saw a couple doctors, and went to Pittsburgh to UPMC to see Dr. Mickey Collins, who worked with Dr. Joe Maroon, who's kind of the big concussion guy in Pittsburgh. And he looked at my file and he looked at all the stuff and he's like, "How are you playing? Like, what are you doing?" I was kind of willing myself to come back, thinking, okay, I can get over this stuff. It's, you're kind of telling yourself that maybe you're out of shape because you laid in bed for 2 weeks and you didn't do anything. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And, finally came to the realization that I actually had a problem and I needed to get it fixed. And so that was the end, where he told me, he basically took my keys away, so to speak, and said, "You're done." And then our owner, Mr. Snyder, he would always show our medical files. He had a son-in-law that was a doctor, and he showed him my file, and he's like, "I'm sorry, this guy's never playing again." And so I had 5 years left in my contract. So, good thing you got guaranteed money.
Let's go one more over here and one more back over here, I believe. So start over here.
You get to the Cup final in 06 and you fall short of Carolina. What feelings, mentality internally, and in the locker room you carried in the very next year when you're back in the final?
Well, I think first and foremost, devastated in Carolina after losing that Game 7, and just having that feeling and the understanding of what it actually is going to take to win this thing, and how everybody in the room has to believe, and everybody has to be willing to sacrifice, and the dedication it's going to take all year long to get to that point. And a lot of we continually learn and evolve, and in the book, when you read it, you'll see the challenges, and you'll see things that kind of pop up in and around that of, I got to Anaheim, and, when I left here, I go to Edmonton, and, we weren't expected to go that far, but, we came together as a group, we had full buy-in, and the willingness of guys. We had guys that were willing to block shots with their face. We had guys that were willing to do absolutely anything to win, and, we still came up short. And so you want to win because you want to prove people wrong. And that was my mentality. And when I got to Anaheim, it's just, I want to just succeed. I just want to do it for me and my teammates, and not worry about all the naysayers, the doubters, and all the people that have broken ankles jumping off your bandwagon. But more for the people closest to you and your teammates and those that, are invested. And, again, mentality, a little mindset switch, but, very important.
Question right over here.
What qualities make a great leader captain? And you think anyone currently on the Blues can or will do that?
What makes a great captain, and who on the Blues?
Yeah, what makes a great captain, and is there anyone on the Blues that can step in?
Yeah, I think there's sometimes a misnomer that it has to be the best player or whoever that is, and that's not always the case. I think on the current Blues roster, I think they should wait a year and just have 3 A's and try to see how it sorts out. I know people have been talking about Jake Neighbors, but I don't think there's a rush. There's lots of teams that have gone 3 A's and just let it sort itself out. They've got some guys that can fill into that leadership role, but they're younger, and you want to make sure. I know they tried to trade Colton Parayko. His no move turns into a limited no trade. So whether they follow through and try to deal him again, I don't know. But he would be a leader, a quiet leader in the locker room, and I think they need. Not that you need to be boisterous and rah-rah, but you need to have a presence. And, like when I was in Anaheim, Scott Niedermayer is not the most rah-rah, most outgoing, but when he talks, it's with a purpose and with intent. And we played off of that. I played off of that and was myself. You have to be yourself, and you have to be who you are to be an authentic leader. And, when I was in Edmonton, I didn't wear a letter. It didn't mean I wasn't a leader. They had already had their leadership group in place when I got traded there, and Craig McTavish said, I'm not going to give you a letter. I'm like, I don't need a letter. It's not going to change my interactions with the guys in the locker room. It's not going to change what I do on the ice. It's not going to change. The only thing it's not going to maybe let me do is go over and give the referee shit, but I'd do that anyways. So I hope that answered your question.
We got one final question right here.
As a father, what do you do to instill that mindset in your kids?
What do you do to instill this mindset in your kids?
You hope that they are paying attention to how hard a worker you are. I don't have to work, but I like to work, and I think that rubs off on them. And you hope that I know my oldest boy has a strong work ethic and understands what it's going to take to be successful in this world. I think my middle one is learning that. He kind of beats to his own drummer. And then my daughter certainly does, and my wife does. So I think it's, you need to show them what it looks like, and they should be able to watch and learn. They're very visual, and as they watch and learn what you do and how you do it on a daily basis, how you show up with intent and purpose, I think that translates, and they pick up on that really well. They see more than you think, and they hear more than you think too.
Great answer. Well, where's Lori? If Lori could stand up, and let's give a big round of applause
yes, Lori.
to Lori. She made this whole thing happen tonight, so thank you, Lori.
Yeah, Lori.
It's an awesome spot. I've never been here before. This is a pretty cool spot. So thanks to everybody that's working here, to our man Jeff, our camera guy.
Jeff.
Amazing.
Yeah, get it, Jeff.
And thanks to you all for being here.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. Enjoy awesome. The book. I guarantee I have not, I swear to God, I have not had one person that has read it not like it.
You heard it here, folks.
Just saying, don't make me track you down.
Chris, thank you, my man.
Great stuff. Hey, dude. Appreciate you, brother.